Morning students. I'm Loveleen. Today we'll discuss about what themes they have been used in a portrait of the artist as a young man by James Joyce. So there are different themes that have been inculcated into this text, into this novel, into this work of fiction. So there is no single theme which can be allocated to it. So first of all, we have the development of individual consciousness, right? So the most famous aspect of this work, it's the use of the technique of stream of consciousness. So this is a style in which the author, he directly uses the thoughts and sensations that go through a character's mind. So it does not simply describe those sensations from the external standpoint of an observer. So he talks of the mind of the character. So Joyce's use of stream of consciousness, it shows the development of Stephen's mind. So in the first chapter, the very young Stephen is only capable of describing his world in simple poetic words and phrases. The sensations that he experiences, they are all very unclear. So later, when Stephen is a teenager, he is obsessed with religion. Then he is able to think clearly and in an adult manner. So we have here paragraphs that are more logically ordered than in the opening sections. So this is how the development takes place from the beginning, and it proceeds towards this character becoming an artist. So Stephen mind is more mature, and he thinks very coherently about his surroundings. Still, there are instances he trusts blindly in the church, and his passionate emotions of guilt and religious ecstasy, they are so strong that they get in the way of his rational thinking. So in the final chapter, when Stephen is in the university, he is presented in a truly rational way. So by the end of the novel, Joyce renders a portrait of mind that has achieved emotional, intellectual, and artistic adulthood. So there is a complete development of all these aspects. So the development of Stephen's consciousness in this portrait of the artist is particularly interesting because Stephen is a portrait of Joyce himself. So Stephen's development gives us an insight into development of Joyce himself. So Stephen's experiences, they also hint at the influence that transformed Joyce into a great writer. So Stephen's obsession with language, his strained relations with religion, family, and culture, and his dedication to forging an aesthetic of his own mirror, the ways in which Joyce he underwent these things, and the various tensions in his life during his formative years as an artist. So in the last chapter of the novel, we also learn that though in many ways also requires great work and considerable sacrifice. So, watching Stephen's daily struggle to puzzle out his aesthetic philosophy, we get a sense of great task that awaits him. Another theme that we can talk of is religious extremism. So, this character, he's brought up in a devout Catholic family. So, he initially sticks to absolute belief in the morals of the church. As a teenager, this belief leads him to two opposite extremes, both of which are harmful. So he falls into sin, and he repeatedly sleeps with prostitutes and deliberately turn his back on religion. Now, Stephen sins willfully, but he is always aware that he has violated the rules of the church. So, when Father Arnold's speech uh, advises him to return to Catholicism, he jumps to the other extreme and becomes a perfect fanatical model of religious devotion and obedience. But Stephen realizes that both the lifestyles, the completely sinful and the completely devout, they are extremes and both are harmful. So he does not want to lead a completely debauched life, but also rejects austere Catholicism because he feels that it does not permit the full experience of being human. So then ultimately what he does? He embraces life and celebrates humanity when he sees a young girl. So to him, the girl is a symbol of pure goodness. Then other concept we talk of is the role of the artist. So the portrait of the artist, it explores what is an artist, who is an artist, and what is the meaning of being an artist. So Stephen's decision to leave his family and friends and go into exile in order to become an artist suggests that Joyce sees the artist as isolated figures. So Stephen turns his back on his community. He leaves everything. He refuses to accept the constraints of the society and politics and religion and family commitment. So the community places on its members. So there is a complete refusal of all the aspects. So the artist, it is presented in this light as he's aloof from all these things. However, artist is an isolated figure. Stephen's ultimate goal is to give a voice to the very community that he's leaving. So in the last few lines of the novel, Stephen says and expresses his desire to forge in the smithy of my soul and the uncreated conscience of my race. He recognizes that his community will be always a part of him and it has created him and shaped his identity. Then we also talk of the concept of Irish autonomy. So, despite his desire to steer clear of politics, Stephen constantly ponders over the political atmosphere in Ireland. So he concludes that Irish, they have always been subservient people. They allow outsiders to control them. So in his conversation with the Dean of Studies at the university, he realizes that even the language of the Irish people really belongs to the English. Stephen's perception of Ireland's subservience has two effects on his development as an artist. So it makes him determined to escape the bonds that his ancestors have accepted, as we see in his conversation with Devin. Then, using the borrowed language of English, he plans to write in a style that will be both autonomous and from England and true to Irish people. So Stephen's perception, it makes him determined to use his art to reclaim autonomy for Ireland. So motifs are recurring structures, contrast, or literary devices that can help to develop and inform the text's major themes. So these are the different themes that have been developed, that have been talked about in this text.